The U.S. military is using cash bonuses and student loan forgiveness to try to ramp up recruitment. Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of Thinking Out Loud. It's been a while, guys. Today, we're going to be jumping right into the topic. Today, we're going to be talking about empire. We're going to be talking about the military-industrial complex, namely how the U.S. Army and all of its different branches is trying different methods, new novel methods to ramp up military recruitment. That's obviously no surprise that such a thing is happening right now, given events going on in Ukraine, the continued escalation of the conflict there, the continued demoralization of a public and a younger generation that is sick and tired of forever wars. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into this here, guys. We've got a few different articles I want to touch on and a video clip from Breakthrough News I also want to play for you guys a little later on. But first off, we're going to jump into this one right here. It says the Army is increasing its largest signing bonus to $50,000 for some new recruits. Let's see what we got here, huh, guys? For the first time in its history, the U.S. Army is offering its largest bonus ever for new recruits who commit to 6 years of service, $50,000. That's just about a down payment on a home, guys. Maybe pay off a nice big suburban car. Pay for cash out the lot. Something to consider, right? Up until now, the Army has offered a maximum bonus for new recruits of $40,000. Major General Kevin Viren, head of Recruiting Command, told the Associated Press that the Army hopes the increase in bonuses will help attract new talent amid a challenging landscape for military recruiters. Viren said the pandemic has made it difficult to recruit both in schools and at public events, making the competition for getting qualified recruits in the door much more difficult. Quote unquote here, we are still living in the implications of 2020 and the onset of COVID, when the school systems basically shut down. Viren told the AP, we lost a full class of young men and women that we didn't have contact with face to face. Now that's interesting. So they weren't able to go into the schools, into the high schools, in order to recruit, in order to do face-to-face recruitment. And because of that, recruitment numbers are hurting. That's fucking disturbing. Why is that disturbing? Because it tells us that a huge percentage of the recruits that they rely on, the new recruits that they rely on every year, are coming out of public schools. And I mean, none of this is knowledge to you guys, I'm sure. But the schools that they're going to, let's just say they're not going to the high-end suburban schools. You know, they're not going to the public schools that are in downtown New York or in ritzy areas, are they? No, they're not. Of course they're not. Because if any of those young people living in those neighborhoods are going to join the military, they're going to do like an NROTC program, and they're going to be officers. They're going to go to West Point. They're going to do all this shit. They're going to have the fancy uniforms. They're going to go to the fucking balls and the charity dinners and all that, nice shit, right? So no, they're not going to the affluent schools, are they? No, they're going to the poorest districts in America. That's where they pull the recruits from. There's I guess you'd say a colloquialism or a archetype, rather, would be a better word. There's an archetype of the Army recruit in American culture. Where do they come from? What are they like? You've got the poor rural bumpkin, right? From Nowheresville, Iowa. Yours truly, right? Or you've got the hip and take no shit black urban youth from the poorest neighborhoods in the Bronx. That's the two archetypes of, the Army grunt in the U.S. culture. And why is that? That's because that's where they're getting the troops from. Why are they getting the troops from there? Why are they getting the new recruits from there? Because those are the poorest areas in America. You got rural areas like my own, small community, Rust Belt. There's no jobs. All there fucking is is corn and a group of people in the community that have all had sex with one another. That's what you got. And you got a dive bar here and there. You know, living in rural America, you're condemned to some bullshit factory job that doesn't pay shit and is non-unionized because it's a right-to-work state, because the rural areas are so fucking desperate they'll do anything to have any kind of job come in. Or you've got some kind of service job. And it's not a lot better. In fact, it's probably far worse for those living in urban centers. So yeah, that's where they're getting the recruits from. And what do we got here? We got the fact that they weren't able to go into the schools because of the pandemic. That would be a bad look for the U.S. Army, right? That'd be a bad look. A bad look. Never mind the fact that the U.S. Army did little to nothing to help, stem the tide of the pandemic. Like other countries would use their National Guard or the military to, I don't know, make sure people are getting fed, continuing to run infrastructure in places where maybe people were laid off because it was privatized, vaccination efforts, all that shit, Other countries did that with their army, with their National Guard. I didn't really see much of that in our country, did we? I guess that would go along with the whole authoritarian regime forcing us to get our vaccinations thing. So no, that wouldn't be a good look either. But no, it wouldn't be a good look to have the U.S. Army going into the schools right now during the pandemic. So that's just pretty telling there. The fact that, 1 year, I guess, year and a half, maybe 2 years goes by where they're not able to go in and prey on young, dumb, poor kids. And they're in a serious hurting position when it comes to the recruitment numbers. Let's see here if we got some more deets. Not everyone will get the maximum. Oh, I'm really surprised by that. That the Army released a PR thing in a headline saying that we're going to offer you this much money, and then 2 paragraphs in, they're going to tell you that. Not everyone's going to get it, though. Seems like it's just an idea to get you in the recruitment office, huh? Let's read some of this, huh? The maximum benefit of $50,000 bonus won't go to every recruit. In a news release Wednesday, military recruiting officials said the incentive for those qualified recruits who sign up for certain career paths is aimed at competing for the same talent that the private sector is competing for. The bonus size depends on a range of factors. The total incentive package for new Army recruits will be based on a range of factors such as career field, individual qualifications, length of an enlistment contract, and ship date for training, officials said. Career-based incentives will range from $1,000 on the low end, ooh, that's good money, up to the $40,000 for jobs. Wait a minute. $40,000? Didn't they just say $50,000, that they're raising it from $40,000 to $50,000? Jesus Christ, they're a bunch of hustlers at the U.S. Army, aren't they? Up to $40,000 for jobs that need to be filled or are difficult to fill due to specific qualifications, such as radar repairers and infantry and special forces. Now, we're going to get into some of these jobs. I got a clip for you guys talking about it with Mike Prysner from the Empire Files. He talks about some of these other jobs they're trying to rope people in with, not with this cash bonus per se, but with student loan forgiveness. So yeah, only for certain jobs, $1,000 to $40,000. And now what they don't bring up in this article, but in that same video I'm going to play a clip for you guys from, is they not giving you a $40,000 check. They're not even giving you a $1,000 check. If you were getting a big fat lump sum of money, even with taxes taken out, you might be like, oh, that's pretty good. I am impoverished. And I do have a lot of debt. But that's not how it works. These bonuses are divvied up week by week for however long your enlistment period is. So I'm terrible with mathematics, so bear with me, friends. Let's say you're doing a 4-year contract at, 52 weeks in a year, right? What is that? That's like 200 weeks. So you'll take, let's say your bonus is $20,000. $20,000 divided by 200 weeks. What does that equate to? It's going to end up being like an extra $100 to $200 a week on your enlistment with your regular E1 pay. So it's not even a lump sum of cash. It's a load of bullshit is what it is. We got a little bit more here, guys. Let's see. It says officials said the Army will also offer an incentive between $2,000 to $9,000 for those who are ready to ship out to basic training within 90 days, with more money being offered for those who ship out sooner. Damn, they want you quick. They don't want you to think about it. They want you to see $9,000, sign up, ship out the basic right away, and they want to get your ass in front of the recruiter, document signed, on the bus, in the barracks, getting your fucking head slammed in by the drill sergeant. That's what they want. They don't even think about it. 9Gs? I know you need 9Gs. You got bills, bitch. Your mama's got bills. Do the right thing. Get on the bus. Anyway, in addition, there are also incentives for those who sign up for airborne or ranger schools. Okay, so yeah. In this article, it goes on a little bit further. I'm not going to read it to you guys, though. It says the $2,000 to $9,000 sign-on bonus for those who are ready to ship out ASAP is their justification is that they need the recruits to get through basic and do this and that so that they can keep the Army bases up and running, right away, because they're in such a recruitment hurt right now. No one wants to fucking join the Army, man. No one wants to join the Army. So their justification for this part of the bonus is not anything scary like an impending war in Eastern Europe or, certain conflict with China. It's not that. It's not that, guys. It's that they are so bad, in such a bad position when it comes to recruitment, that they are in a position now where they might not be able to keep the Army bases up and running, which is fine by me, but, But nothing too scary, guys. Doesn't have anything to do with the war in Ukraine or escalating tensions with China. I'm sure they're the Army has a really good rap sheet with not lying when it comes to their official statements, so I'm sure we could take this at its face value. All right, guys, now I want to jump into this clip that I was going to play for you guys. So this is a clip from Breakthrough News. First off, if you aren't subscribed and regularly watching Breakthrough News, hit pause on this fucking video right now. Do it right now. Open up another tab, whatever the fuck, and go to Breakthrough News and hit subscribe. Okay? This is one of the best independent media outlets there is right now. I mean, Breakthrough News is when things are going on, I go to them first with whatever they have. They have interviews from people all over the world, not just Atlantic Council stooges and Pentagon spooks that you get on the mainstream media. They get people from all over the world. They get people from China. They get people from Russia. They get the independent journalists in the West that, that the powers that be have done everything they can to try to shut down. They get people from the third world, from the developing world, from India, Pakistan, everywhere to talk about the issues that are going on there, not through some Western white supremacist lens. So please, do them a solid. They've been a big inspiration for me on this channel, especially in the last few months. Go subscribe to them. The analysis they do is super in-depth, and it's an amazing show. Just go check it out. They got a little something for everybody, whatever your issue is. Definitely go check it out. But this clip from them that I'm going to show for you guys is Mike Prysner, who, if you don't know who that is, he works with the Empire Files with Abby Martin. He's a Iraq war veteran. You may have seen a speech of him some years back talking about the military-industrial complex and stuff. It's all snowy and stuff. Real fucking epic interview, right? That was probably from 5 to 10 years ago now. But this guy's a real expert on the military-industrial complex, on recruitment, how the Army works, our foreign policy, and things like that. So this clip I'm going to play for you guys from Breakthrough News. Sorry to pirate from you guys. I'll give you a little shout-out in the descriptor, as I have in the video as well. But he talks about not this cash bonus incentive that we've kind of picked apart, but another program that the U.S. Army, that the military is doing, where they are trying to get people to come in to recruitment by promising to forgive up to, I think, $65,000 in student loan forgiveness. And they're painting it like they did with this. There's no stipulations, just join up if you want the money. But really, the moment you start picking it apart, it completely falls apart, and it ends up being another line of bullshit from the military. So without further ado, let's just jump right into this, and I'll roll it here for you guys.
So they're targeting people who had to drop out of college, don't have a degree, nothing to show for the money they spent, and they have a lot of debt. But here's where it gets a little wild. So there's only they tout this thing, and really a lot of this is just geared towards getting people in the front door of the recruiting office, saying we'll pay $65,000 of student debt if you join the military, if you join the Army right now. That's not the case. There's different levels of it, but to get the student debt forgiveness, it's only in particular jobs. And right now, there are only 4 jobs in the Army that they are offering the student loan debt repayment for. Let's talk about some of these jobs. Okay, so one of the jobs, of the 4 jobs, one of them is shower and laundry specialist, responsible for overseeing care of personal laundry and shower operations. So joining the military on a 4 to 8 year contract to do laundry in a giant laundry room of just like shit. Wow. So that's one of the jobs. And that's like one of the hardest jobs the Army has to recruit for. So all of these jobs that nobody wants is what they throw these big initiatives at. So it makes it look a little less appealing. Another one of these jobs, transportation management coordinator, which is a truck driver pretty much. Those are most of the people that got killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. Just people on pointless supply chain operations, just driving around in trucks waiting to get blown up. But the best one on this list, this is how you get your $60,000 student debt repaid, is to sign up for 48 years doing mortuary affairs specialists. And so that is dealing with all the bodies of civilians and soldiers who are killed on the battlefield. So that's a pretty hefty price to pay to get your student loan debt repaid, is to just manage the body parts and putting them together and putting them in the little box that they put on the plane and so forth. So it's kind of rough. And, you know, I think it's not a coincidence that the Army is unveiling this plan now after hopes of student loan debt being forgiven is out the window.
All right, there you have it. Sounds like a good gig, huh? If you were thinking this sounds like a good deal, I hope after hearing that, maybe you're second guessing it. All right. So those are the 4 jobs that are offering the maximum amount of student loan forgiveness. Working in a giant industrial, laundry facility. I mean, that's, given the hellscape of late stage capitalist America, that's an all right gig, I suppose. Guaranteed job, 3 meals on a cot, pay off your student debt. I mean, it's still shitty the fact that we have to, go to these lengths to have something paid for that should be a human right anyway. But still, not so bad. But then the supply chain truck driver, at first glance, that sounds like an all right gig. I'm going to drive truck. I'm going to make a decent salary with the Army, and I'll get all the benefits that come with joining the U.S. Army and the patriotism and the love and respect of my fellow citizens. But, there were people that thought the same thing at the onset of Afghanistan and Iraq. Namely, the 1133rd, based out of Iowa. One of the big the units that were based out of Iowa, where I'm from. Truck drivers, supply chain. That sounds like a decent gig if you got to be in a war zone. I just drive the truck, bitch. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Well, in these wars, during a time of asymmetrical warfare and improvised explosive devices, that was one of the worst gigs you could have. And people have woken up to that fact because there was huge casualty rate amongst the 1133rd and similar units or divisions. People have woken up to the fact that is a bad gig to have with the way war is fought nowadays. So they're paying out big for that, for you to be a sitting duck in a 10-ton machine filled with munitions that when you blow up, it blows up double time. And if you're not vaporized in the explosion, you'll be going home to your mom in a casket that's completely, just a lump of flesh that's completely unrecognizable to a little boy that she saw slap an Army helmet and grab a rifle on and went out to the desert, right? So that's that. And then the piece de resistance, the coup de grace, for $65,000 in student loan debt forgiveness, you can play Dr. Frankenstein. Putting together body parts of young children and young men blown apart that'll never see the mama again. It's a good gig. It's a good gig. So yeah, guys, we kind of picked that apart. This new initiative that the Army is doing. I like what Mike said there as well. In light that it's pretty clear that President Joe Biden is not going to be forgiving student loan debt. I mean, I think a lot of us really hoped, almost believed, maybe they'll throw us some bone so that we don't riot. Well, that's gone now. That's completely blown out of the water. So now they're unveiling all of this student loan forgiveness, cash bonuses that amount to dick, to try to get people to join the Army. Like he said, I don't think it's very coincidental. But, in a sense, this is nothing new. Throwing cash bonuses and benefits at young men or women, try to get them to join the Army. But there are some newer things going on in the digital age that the Army is doing, that the U.S. military is doing to try and bolster up its recruitment numbers. Empire needs a lot of bodies. It needs a lot of bodies that it's got to blow up, and it's got to have a lot of bodies to do the blowing up. And so the U.S. Army has, begun to traverse the digital realm in an attempt to recruit young men and women for the Army. So let's read some of this article here, guys. This is from the Milwaukee Independent. It says, from Fortnite to Call of Duty, the U.S. military is recruiting youth from a game console near you. Oh, yeah. We love doing dystopia on this channel, and this absolutely fits it. It says, after 2 years working under the radar, the U.S. Army's latest Verhoeven effort to recruit young people through online gaming, streaming, and a full embrace of digital culture has finally gotten in some hot water. Before we get into this, I want to make a comment. We've talked on several videos now on the way in which the military-industrial complex and our capitalist system has discovered that the old forms of propaganda aren't necessarily working. And one of the things that they've done recently is embrace what you'd call woke culture, or identity politics, as in an attempt to try to manufacture people's consent for continued empire, endless wars, exploitation of the working class, etc., environmental destruction as well. So some of the things that we've done videos on is MI6 and CIA putting a trans flag up on Trans Visibility Day. We've had discussions about an all-gay attack helicopter crew, posing with a pride flag in front of a, $20 million machine that has no other purpose than to mow down and rocket human beings to death, right? Turn them into vapor. So we've talked about some ways in which the military-industrial complex and capitalism generally has tried to continue manufacturing consent as these old ways of propaganda to people no longer work. Like we talked about in the other article, valor, pride, honor, patriotism. No one gives a fuck about this shit anymore because we're increasingly living in a transnational, globalized world where those sorts of dividing lines are somewhat loosened in people's minds. Those things are no longer as important as, say, they were maybe in the 50s, right? So with this article, we're going to be talking about not necessarily a propaganda machine, but I guess you could call it that as well. But the military-industrial complex method of using, online culture, digital niche communities to try and enlist young people who are no longer really interested, by and large, in patriotism or valor on the battlefield, by using video game streaming services to try to get them into the door to be faithful killers for empire. So let's go ahead and jump into this a little bit more here, guys. It says, though they have paused their nearly daily streams of popular games like Warzone over accusations of censorship, bait and switch giveaways that lead to recruiting forums and other deceptive messaging, the U.S. Army esports project has only just begun. Parents beware. U.S. military recruiters are coming to a game console near you. The U.S. Army esports team Twitter account is rife with anime gifs and heart emojis. Oh, fucking ooh, boy. Ooh. There's no more shoving nerds in the lockers when comic book superheroes and video games are at the forefront of popular culture. And as nerd culture continues to ascend, its young adherents will be called to do battle. Not for the Borg or the Night's Watch, but for the United States Armed Forces. Classic shit right here. Classic shit right here. Oh, you like killing brown folks on Call of Duty? Well, how would you like to be paid to do that for real, my friend? Here at the U.S. Army, we can make that happen. Let's see what else we got here, guys. As early as 1999, the Pentagon has been sponsoring video game development, from breaking into the first-person shooter game with America's Army to eventually advising entries in the massively popular Call of Duty franchise. You hear that? You got spooks involved in making the Call of Duty franchise. Wonder what else they got their fingers in. If you didn't know that already, I don't know what to tell you. It's pretty common knowledge by now, but still. By 2015, in Instruction 5410.16, the Pentagon included electronic games, quote-unquote, in the list of media that, quote-unquote, may benefit military service recruiting and retention programs. Damn! By 2018, the esports team was born, crashing in on the rising star of competitive video games and crucially unmoderated voice chat rooms. So how about that, guys? I'm a parent. I'm sure some of you watching are parents as well, right? You know, that's deeply disturbing to think about. You know, I play video games a lot. I encourage my daughter to play video games in moderation, mind you, because, you know, dad has a slight video game addiction. Better than the alcohol I was on a few years ago, right? Anyhow, it's disturbing to think about, isn't it? Kids playing, you know, Call of Duty and killing people on a video game. That's already kind of disturbing enough if you think about it. But then you got some Army recruiter sergeant in there talking about, hey, man, how would you like to do this for real? You like guns? Tell you what, you can shoot all the guns you want in the U.S. Army. It's disturbing shit, but more disturbing than that is this bit here. As early as 1999, the Pentagon has been sponsoring video game development, from breaking into first-person shooter games and advising entries in Call of Duty. So if you guys weren't aware of this yet, the CIA, the U.S. Army, the military-industrial complex, spooks of all shapes and sizes have had their fingers in popular culture, in media, in Hollywood, in radio, in music, forever. Since at least the 40s. And you bet your ass they're involved in video games. And when you start thinking about that, it starts to become real disturbing when you see all the pro-military references in Marvel movies. All the movies like Olympus Has Fallen, where some terrorists attack the White House, or whatever. A million different fucking stories and shitty B-list movies just like that. And it becomes real disturbing when you think that some CIA spook gave the green light to it, the thumbs up. Hey, it looks good. Everybody at the Pentagon's real happy with this. Ship it out. That's the world you live in, and it sounds real conspiratorial and wacky and dystopic, but it's the facts. The U.S. Army, the military industrial complex, the Pentagon, the spooks, they are part of the propaganda machine, my man. They're part of the mainstream news. That's why if you're still watching CNN or MSNBC, you're a dumbass. Because you bet your ass, if they're involved in Hollywood and video games, they're probably involved in the news media that's owned by the same giants that own the video games in the Hollywood mega movie franchises. You know, Disney, Peacock, all that shit. I mean, come on, man. One of the reasons for a recent video we did, the most propagandized country on earth. You're living in it. You're living in it. Let's do a little bit more reading here, guys. It says, top military recruiters have been pleased with the gamer-to-soldier pipeline. That's quite a phrase. Major General Frank Muth credits the foray into video games as a major success for recruitment endeavors. And despite the best efforts of Twitter comedians, the endeavor will continue. As Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, Casey Wardinsky has made clear, we have to confront the question of, will we wait until they're 17, or will we start talking to them at age 12, 13, 14, 15? Well, that's disturbing, huh? That sounds like child soldiers. That sounds like grooming, just a little bit. Disturbing stuff, guys. Couple of things here, top military recruiters have been pleased with the gamer to soldier pipeline. I'll tell you what, something you might not have known about me is I wanted to join the U.S. Marine Corps. And I wanted to be a war correspondent, and I would be a liar if I didn't say Call of Duty didn't play a big role in cementing that idea in my head. The same with Saving Private Ryan, Flags of Our Fathers. I'm a young boy growing up in a warlike, heavily propagandized country where the biggest movies are about war and American flags and the suffering of soldiers in order to keep us free. And when I have some downtime and I play a video game, what video game is there? Call of Duty, motherfucker, Battlefield. Flags are waving and guns are blazing. So yeah, I'd be a liar if I said that these things didn't have effect on me as well. And it's interesting now being an adult and being able to take a step back and having some wisdom and seeing that, propaganda. None of us is beyond the effect of propaganda, you or I included. And hopefully the older we get and the more we flex our critical thinking muscles, the more we're able to see through this sort of thing. But kids as young as 12, 13, 14, or 15 don't really have that sense, especially since they're not taught it in the schools. But that's the real scary thing and the crux of this here. We have to confront the question of, will we wait until they're 17 or will we start talking to them at ages 12, 13, 14, 15? That's grooming children to be soldiers, my man. But, it's only bad when the Congolese, the black folk do it. Train child soldiers. Yeah. It's sick. It's sick. You've got a country here that is fighting wars all over the world, has more military bases than all the rest of the countries combined. Huge army, huge propaganda machine. And they're creeping into your living room, into your kid's bedroom to try to propagandize them into joining the Legion. And what does the Legion do? It kills brown folk all over the world on behalf of the capitalist class. This is the world you're living in. This is the fucking country you're living in. That's what the fucking American flag stands for, my man. Empire. An empire that is more than willing to groom young children, adolescent children, barely in puberty, into being trained killers in the name of empire. And if that doesn't fuck you up inside and disturb you, your moral compass is so beyond gone, I'm not even trying to talk to you, my man. Got a little more reading here, guys. It says, indeed, with games like Fortnite assigning players a randomized room, there is no telling who your kids are talking to. That's panacea for a military in the midst of its forever wars. Like I said, you got to have bodies for the wars. You got to have bodies to do the killing of brown bodies. And if we're going to make that happen, we got to get them young when they're real stupid. No need for parents who have been worn down from decades of indefinite conflict when you can just talk to the kids yourself. Recruiters also don't have to worry about the negative opinions of ACLU, blah, blah, blah. So, I've had people in my community talk to me about the way I talk to my kid about politics, economics, history, real history, and they say, oh, well, that's a lot for a little kid. This is why I have these conversations with my kid. The society I live in has made it necessary. Because me having a difficult conversation about slavery and race, colonization, empire, war crimes, these are hard conversations to have with a child who, still believes in the tooth fairy. I just put a $5 bill under her pillow the other night. But we've got to have them because now when some creepo weirdo is talking to her on World of Warcraft or whatever the fuck the kids are playing now, Minecraft, I guess, she'll have some guns to fight back with. And she'll be less susceptible to propaganda. I'm a firm believer that political, economic, ideological education for children, you can never start too young. Now, that don't mean go waving the Soviet flag and singing the Internationale. But it does mean having a talk about the issues of the world and the systems that we live under in a way in which children can understand. And this is why we have those conversations, right? Let's finish this off here, guys. It says the military is facing a minor recruiting crisis, likely on account of public exhaustion of endless warfare with little results. Parents aren't interested in teaching their kids about military enlistment when the reality is their kids might die, and still, the war and occupation will drag on for another 10, 20 years and then maybe end without much resolution. Instead, the military has opted to target kids directly while playing video games. General Muss said, give recruiting operations the ability to see which activities work and which ones don't for gauging young people. Kids as young as 12 are eligible to enter game accessory giveaways and that redirect to recruiting forms. I mean, this is what it is, guys. They know that the parents aren't going to, even more military-minded families that with a positive view of the U.S. military aren't likely to have these talks with their kids and advocate for them joining the military as a career path because of the wars we've been in, because of the suffering that they've seen in their own lives, be it an aunt or an uncle or a son or a daughter of their own that's dead or so fucked up that they don't seem like the same person anymore. So they're bypassing all that, skip the kids, talk to them while they're engaging in their hobbies online. I mean, that's pedophilic. It's pedophilic in a way that I really don't even know what to say. It makes me sick, you know. And it's not going to stop. And this sort of, I guess you could even characterize it as a psyop, is only going to continue. You can never underestimate the power of a multi-billion-dollar propaganda machine, and you can especially not underestimate the sway that it will have under an impressionable young child's mind, especially an impressionable young child's mind that's already engaged with all sorts of flag-waving and pro-military propaganda from the day they pop out your mother's womb. You know, so that's what it is. And if that weren't enough, I've got this right here for you guys as well to end it off. This is the webpage for the Young Marines. Building tomorrow's leaders today. The Young Marines is a national youth program for boys and girls ages 8 through high school. Focused on leadership, citizenship through community service, self-discipline, and living a health style. So if the video games don't work, or if we can get them with the video game thing, we can funnel them right into the Young Marines. Look at that image. If that ain't child grooming for military service, I don't know what is. Look at the fucking country you live in, man. And I know we're so used to all these things, sometimes it can be hard to, or not second nature at least, to look through the veil and see these things for what they are. But you are living in an empire, the biggest and most bloodthirsty one in human history, that has been responsible for millions of deaths just since 9/11 and millions of more since World War II. Don't make a mistake. Millions of human beings have died at the hands of American capitalist empire. And millions more will die before the show is over. And they want your kids to do the killing. They want your kids to plant the flag on the piles of dead bodies and burned out buildings. And this is how they get them. Call of Duty, video games, youth programs, cash bonuses, if none of that works. This is the kind of shit that haunts my fucking dreams at night. And if it don't make you sick, I don't know what to tell you, man. You're all mixed up inside. If you think this is okay, if you can, I don't care how patriotic you are about the United States and you think it's a great country and democracy. If you don't see something wrong with that, you're sick. Plain and simple. But yeah, guys, that's all I have for you. I know this one went a little bit longer, but I had a lot of content I wanted to cover, and I just wanted to, show you an example at the insidious way in which the American military-industrial propaganda machine is developing, is evolving to keep up with its ambitions of empire, especially as wealth inequality grows, as the potential for opportunity for upward social mobility continues to decline in the empire. If they can't get them young, when they're impressionable and you can brainwash them into being trained killers, well, they'll get you, when you're older and in debt and desperate. You have medical expenses. Hey, We can make it all go away, or we'll say we'll make it all go away. All you got to do is grab this rifle, go over and kill Russians, go over and kill Muslims. It's fine. Let's make it happen. And, you know, there's been the whole thing with Roe v. Wade going on now with the Supreme Court, and this is just another example of this. I mean, the anti-abortion movement, make no mistake, for all that it is, with its theocracy and utter bullshit zealotry, it's also a form of class warfare, directed particularly at women, but at the working class in general. Because what happens if you have millions of women no longer able to access reproductive health, no longer have a say in their own reproductive rights? You have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of children more born into poverty. And when you're born into poverty, you have two choices, unless you win a fucking lottery scratch ticket. So you got three choices. Win big on the lottery would be the ideal one. But if that don't happen for you, you got two choices. You work the rest of your life as a waiter, as a fast food worker, or as a gig worker in the increasingly late-stage capitalist hellscape we've created. Always one illness or one missed paycheck away from homelessness to join the throngs of millions of homeless people on the street. Or you can join the empire. You can join the Legion and do some killing. That'll get you out of poverty, maybe into the lower middle class. And that's what all this is, man. It's what Roe v. Wade's about. It's what all this propaganda is about. It's what not canceling student loan debt's about. It's what, not having, universal health care is about. It's about making sure people are desperate enough, that the workforce is desperate enough that they'll keep working these shitty jobs and not dare fight back, or if they're real desperate, they'll join the army. And maybe they'll think killing people is an alternative to poverty. But yeah, guys, that's all I have for you. Again, thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, subscribing. If you can, please support me on Patreon or send a PayPal donation my way. It really makes a huge difference. So until next time, guys, it's been great hanging out with you, and I'll speak with you again soon. Bye.